Hi.
Hi.
Hey, Arthur.
Hello.
Hey, how are you? Hey, Tom.
Hey.
Hey everybody, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. How's everyone?
Good, thanks. How are you doing?
Fucking dead.
Oh, what, Tom?
Ugh.
Some familiar faces. So just as an FYI for some of the people, Lindsay, this is the month, used to be the monthly roundtable, and it's now quarterly. So this is in addition to the stuff that we do together. So you're going to be jam-packed full of e-commerce agency growth stuff this year, that's for sure.
Great.
How exciting. How's everyone else? Are we allowed to say Happy New Year? I think this is the cutoff this week. After this, it's onwards and upwards to 2023. I think we can't talk about the new year anymore.
No, it's gone.
Right, yeah. I've had COVID all this week, so I'm just like, okay, next year. This year's done for me. I just want to move on to next year now.
But you look good. Perhaps I should also try to get COVID. So
I don't know, painkillers, they're starting to wear off now. So
okay.
my sore throat is starting to come back thick and fast. So I'm just like, okay, I can do an hour more of talking. And then my husband actually told me this morning that this weekend I'm not allowed to talk at all, so I can rest my voice. And I was like, okay, nice try. I don't think it's because he wants me to rest my voice and get better. I think it's because he wants me to be quiet for.
I was going to say, does that actually work? I'm going to ask my wife.
No, he married the wrong one. It was a mistake he made 11 years ago. Too late. So I wanted to talk about, excuse me, I wanted to talk about lead generation today as a topic. As you all know, because I put in the email that I sent around earlier, I've moved these roundtables. I used to do them every 2 weeks, and then I did them monthly, and this year I've moved them to quarterly because I have this process cohort that started from yesterday and kicked off, and there's just no way for me to fit it into my schedule. So every quarter we're going to have these roundtables, and I want to have a very specific topic. So sometimes I might bring in a couple of agencies to do it like a panel style or something really specific. Today, based on the conversations I've had over the last 2 weeks, I wanted to do the topic of lead generation because I feel like almost all of the agencies that I've been speaking to in my group have lead generation as front of mind. Some of them have lead gen issues and the pipelines are really quiet, and other agencies have very aggressive and significant growth goals and therefore need to ramp up lead generation. I do have one of the agencies, I don't think he's here yet, Damiano is going to join me a little bit later because he spent the last 4-6 weeks working on a very interesting commission-only sales model for setters. And it seems to be slowly paying off some results. So I wanted to come in and get him to talk through it with everyone so people could learn from what he's doing. It's very early days, so I'm not going to steal his thunder. So lead gen, is there anybody here that's, I mean, I could ask everybody, is anybody here who's focusing on lead gen for this quarter or right now? And it would be everyone. Anybody who's not focused on lead gen is basically, it's a dead agency. So lead generation is everything. Any interesting lead generation strategies that you've used or you're looking at using or you want to find out some information about if somebody else has tried?
I mean, on my level, sorry.
No, I was just going to mention that something where I started doing, and maybe it might help other people too, but I actually started working with like business consultants. So looking for like business consultants within the area, since they're connected with multiple businesses, you know, maybe try to reach out to them, personalized message, something like that, just so they know that you're around and, you know, try to give them maybe a testimony or something. But that's something that I started doing. And so far I was able to get something out of that.
Nice. Yeah, it's actually with the agency that, excuse me, the agency I used to run in London. We had a network of, so they were basically like, what's the word for them? I can't remember, but they were like solutions architects that worked on a consultancy basis, worked directly with brands, and brands would hire these solutions architects or e-com specialists to map out what their e-com strategy was. But they just worked on a consultancy basis on their own. So we had a network of 2 or 3 of those. We also had a network of investors in the e-commerce space that we worked with. And that was, I mean, when we got deals from them, it was pretty good, or introductions. They usually had bigger budgets. But it's a really interesting form of a referral partner to have people that are working with exactly your audience, but they're not, there's no competition there. Nihar, what were you going to say?
I was just gonna say, like, you know, for us last year, one of the most powerful things for us in terms of lead gen was partner relationships throughout the industry, not just Shopify and Shopify Plus, but Klaviyo, Attentive, Loyalty Line, Okendo, all the different platforms we work with. I would gather to say we got 50 to 60% of our leads from that alone, and really fostering those relationships. We look at partnerships, and I always say this at the onset, there's 3 critical things we look for. Number 1 is that if we send them any referrals, they're going to provide the same sort of white glove service and high level of attention that Roswell provides the merchants that we work with as a whole. And then equally important to that is that it's a partnership. That means it's a 2-way street. If we're sending merchants your way, we want you to understand fully what Roswell does and provide merchants that would be quality leads for us to handle there. And then 3, which is not as important, but it's nice to have, is referral fees. You know, it's incentivization. It's not going to pay anyone's salary by any means, but you know, it covers small bills here and there, and it just shows that we're both invested in the relationship. And that's really worked well for us. Because of a number of reasons. Roswell is a full service 360-degree e-commerce agency. So if we get somebody in on for Klaviyo optimization, and we're a Klaviyo Platinum partner as well, they first start with us with email. Well, then we flip it to, why don't you try SMS? Why don't you try Loyalty Line? And so on and so forth. And then, hey, your site needs a UI UX audit because there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that you're leaving on the table. Now they're in development. Paid media and SEO. Hey, looking at your Google Analytics, and so on and so forth. You guys get it. You go down the rabbit hole. But those for Roswell this year, leads that came in for what, I'll give you one example. Came in last January purely for optimizing his email marketing system, is now doing a full suite of retention marketing services, organic social media marketing, development, design, as well as paid media and SEO, full service 360-degree client that started because of a referral regarding email optimization. So that's really been something that we're focusing on. Secondly is going to be content marketing. We decided not to invest any outbound marketing in terms of sales funnels and whatnot, because the quality of leads that we got and the amount of effort that we had to put in last year just to generate any number of piddly little leads that were way unqualified. I personally, I don't know if anybody else wants to remark on this, but doing AdWords campaigns or Facebook campaigns and things of that generation, or LinkedIn ads, like, hey, we're an e-commerce agency, reach out, you're going to get a lot of crap, and it's going to waste your time. Personally, summarizing, content marketing strategies for sales, as well as content marketing and partner marketing is the way to go.
Yeah, I know Nihar, because we went through this painful process together doing that outbound. Nihar actually hired someone to run the outbound, and it was painful. It was a painful process using built with. Oh my God, doing a whole LinkedIn thing, outbound, using built with, I think we're using like Mailshake or something like that to pull all the emails. It was just 6 months of really trying our hardest and nothing happening. Yeah, that was an expensive and painful experiment.
It was, but I gotta say, to Rachel's credit, she, shepherded me through that and told me when it was time to cut it, and that was a real value. Otherwise, we probably would have spent another 3 to 6 months with that torture.
Yeah, it's a hard one to get right. Anybody, and I know Roswell, you guys have got a really good partnership strategy in place. The only downside of having a good partnership strategy in place, which you can feel the brunt of at times, as do other agencies like that, is you become so reliant on your partners sending you referrals that when they don't have referrals to send you, or when they have more partners, you then get yourself in a situation that your lead source is kind of cut off. I have that with a few of my agencies. I have one agency that's 100% referral based, and referrals went cold in Q4, and he was panicking because nothing was coming into the funnel.
Yep.
You get too comfortable with that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the most important thing in the partner relationship is of course, sending them leads, but that the partner relationships you have, that you really invest in your in the partners that you have. Like one of our partner managers at a tech platform got super sick. We sent them like a big care package of food and drink and whatnot to help them out. And it's not just because we were doing it strategically, but it's because we actually care. And developing that personal one-to-one relationship, they're going to want to invest in you as well too. And then having them fully understand the scope of what you can do is what they need to know so that they can pitch you. And then finally, it's a snowball effect. When you get that first referral, do whatever it takes to do the best goddamn job that you can do. Because once you do that and they get good feedback, because you better believe that they're going to check on that merchant and say, how'd it go? And if they're like, they were super disorganized, they promised the world, they delivered, nothing, so on and so forth, you'll never get anything again. So even if it hurts the first few times where maybe you're not making as much money as you would want, do the deal, because they're not going to give you the best deals at the onset. They're going to give you small ones. They're just going to test the waters with you. And then as you continue, as you deliver, even on those smaller ones, it might hurt initially, but just know that if you deliver, you're going to get more. You're going to get more because you're going to be their go-to for sending deals your way.
Can I ask, our general kind of approach is through networking, which obviously got hit a lot in the recent past. We supplemented it with the partnership side of things, and we're pretty good on just general word of mouth. But this year, it's not going to, all of that is not going to do it. And we actually have been considering hiring somebody also to do the outbound content marketing type stuff. Can I ask where you had the pain there? I mean, is that just an area that does not work, or is this I don't know. I'm not really sure what I'm asking, I guess, but I
think I know.
To hear your thoughts on where you got to with it.
Yeah, I think ultimately it was just like casting a super wide net and just pounding LinkedIn with hey, you want a free audit of your site and so on and so forth, and things of that nature, and you just very little response. Maybe it was just not my time. I don't know, but I just know that that reaching out via LinkedIn and using that strategy, I had one lead out of 800 reach outs.
Cool, thanks.
I know other people have had success with it though, so I might not be a good example.
Yeah, when it comes to outbound, getting outbound right is difficult because outbound requires a lot of consistency. Nihar, in your particular case, there was a couple of different reasons. We were using LinkedIn as a funnel, and the LinkedIn life for Nihar and Roswell was a bit of a graveyard. So you're basically trying to fucking resuscitate somebody from the dead. And if you're going in too hot and heavy and there's no life there, it's very difficult to get off the ground. Additionally, the person who was responsible for the outbound wasn't experienced in outbound sales. They were used to, there's difference between being a salesperson where here's a lead, this is the script, this is the product, and sell it, and they can be amazing at that. Doing outbound is a very different kettle of fish. It's high volume and consistency. You have to keep going and try different things and be creative. You have to be very patient, and it's a long tail strategy. It's not going to happen overnight. Yeah, like Alex said in the chat, it's also got much more difficult because there's so much spam. There's a lot of spam on LinkedIn. And then you have these platforms like Built With, and Built With has been absolutely rinsed to death, where people have pulled those lists and put them into email campaigns, and just, so a lot of their stuff has been blocked or blacklisted. So with outbound, it's very difficult to get right. And I think not having a strategy in place up front is probably a sure way for failure. So if you want to make outbound work, or what I've seen work for other agencies, what worked well for myself, go niche. Go as niche as possible as you can for your outbound, and then spread out. So say, for example, you want to go after, I mean, I'm just pulling stuff out of my arse now, but if you want to sell in shopware migrations or shopware upgrades from one shopware platform to another for a specific type of customer, then go after specifically that thing and try and make that work, rather than trying to reach a massive audience. So the people that get outbound to work well have that strategy. It takes a while to stress test and fine tune, but that's your greatest chance of success.
I think
Sorry?
feeding on that, Rachel, and going back to Naher's comment. So being hyper specific with your channel partners is like absolutely huge. So we've really, like, this last year really doubled down with B2B commerce. So with like 5 or 6 of our partners, anytime it comes up in conversation, we're being brought into emails and conversations fairly consistently now. So while we're vertical agnostic, we're doing a very specific niche, like, hey, we're B2B commerce people. So that's really led to us in our channel of giving lunch and learns to multiple sales reps, and, you know, those sales reps being aware of us. So then when they have leads, they're bringing us into conversations.
Yeah, just to add my 2 pence, just what everyone's saying. We've also taken 2 approaches, and we started doing it in September last year. But it took us a while to get our strategy right up front, and also completely nail down our ICP. Going on to what you and Alex, making ourselves, you know, being very, very niche and specific, not only about the customers that we're going after, but also what we're offering, so that the messaging is really clear. And going along the lines of what you were saying, Nihar, so we've got really, really strong partnerships, and we've divided it into our top 5 partners and then everyone else, basically. And with our top 5 partners, we have a go-to-market strategy that we plan on a 3-monthly cycle. So like for this quarter, with each of those partners, we've got content strategy, about what we're going to talk about together, maybe do some webinars, etc., etc. And we do that with our top 5 every quarter. So there's almost a roadmap of work for the whole year on how we can collaborate and share information. And from that, more referrals have been coming both ways, whether it's them sharing on LinkedIn or we share on LinkedIn, or it's part of a newsletter or webinar. We've been getting a lot more referrals that way. And in terms of our outbound, what you were saying, Rachel, we spent so much time nailing down our strategy and making sure that when we actually speak to somebody, we have something unique to offer them. And we started an outbound sales in October, and we've completely scrapped emailing. We're not emailing anybody. We're picking up the phone and calling people. And we've got a guy called Trevor in our team, who we hired last year. And he does nothing but call people all day. And he's got about 20 odd years of experience of outbound in the tech space, some e-commerce, but mostly in the tech space. And the return on that has been really good. So for about every, people may not think it's good, I think it's good, for about every 75 people he calls, we get 10 meetings.
That's really good. They're really good numbers.
And that's I mean, it took him up to about November to get warmed up, and you know, obviously there's a lot of time spent on
refining the pitch and all that stuff. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. But so what we did was we spent Christmas getting one of the team to gather data, very specific data, but manually gathering data, not using any tools, going around, checking people out, looking at their reviews, look at the agency they're with, and look at the reviews from the agency to see if there's people complaining and stuff like that, and being very, very specific about the information, not doing anything automated. And it feels like it's actually working because it's nailing down our customer type, what we're selling them effectively, and calling instead of emailing. They seem to be more receptive, and we're just offering a free clinic. So we offer every 45 minutes, tell us about your problems, and then we go away and put recommendations, whether it's we can help or we can't help, but one of our partners can help, or we can help and our partners can help, and put that together in like a 3-page deck to say, here you go, that's how we can help you. If you're interested, give us a call and we can actually get something more concrete going. So it's very unsalesy, although the approach is quite salesy in terms of picking up the phone and trying to get a meeting with them. So I don't have the biggest agency on this call. I don't have the best agency, but my advice would be, I think some people or we need to revert back to maybe calling people, because like Rachel said, there's just too much shit out there and too much spam, and you get emails that add no value and people don't pay attention to that. So yeah, that's my.
I have definitely heard in the last 6 months, towards the middle of last year, this increase in cold calling people definitely was something that seemed to be more effective. I actually did like a 3-part boot camp. So I have like a sales mastermind I run for the sales teams of the agencies I work with. And as part of that sales mastermind, a lot of the salespeople said, we need help with outbound. So I brought in this team of experts that specialize in LinkedIn outbound. And one of the girls, she has like a 3% close rate, which is amazing for LinkedIn when it's completely cold. And she said, so that's from contacting people to actually closing people. And she said that what she does is anybody she doesn't hear back from, she calls them, because you can have access to phone numbers through LinkedIn from Sales Navigator. And that's her biggest chance of success, just calling people and getting in conversations and speaking to them. Increasingly, because we're living in a virtual world where everybody's doing everything via Zoom, like actually having a conversation. Emails can be very clinical. Emails can feel super spammy. I have a newsletter and I am very, very, very conscious of my newsletter not coming across as spam or trying to use it as a sales tactic, because if it's not bringing value, then it is spam. But this idea of actually calling people, which is why you should be collecting phone numbers from people on your contact forms when people are reaching out to you, because even if they don't need you now, you still have their number and you can call them in the future.
Yeah.
But actually having a conversation with someone can be the difference between closing a deal or not, or winning a sale.
Yeah.
And I think we want everything needs to be convenient, and we want everything super quickly. And it's much better for you to speak to 10 people and close 1 or 2 of them than speak to 400 and close none.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so difficult to tell someone how you're unique and how you're different and how you can help them over an email. I actually think it's impossible. You need to speak to somebody or see them face to face to be able to do that. So yeah, that's what we're doing. And it seems to be working really well. And it's helped with our pipeline and our funnel, because I mean, you know, Rachel, I spoke to you, well, it's probably nearly a year ago, and our biggest problem was lead gen, because the word of mouth sort of, ran its course, if you like, and the partner referrals were too yo-yo and too sporadic that it just didn't make it sustainable. And I feel now we're in a place where we've got a great funnel of things to go at, which was the problem, And if we have a go at them and we don't succeed, then obviously I need to take a good look in the mirror. But it was the problem of not having enough things to go at and put proposals together. So it seems to be working. But yeah, that would be my take. Start to call people and be a bit more meticulous about the type of people you go after. I really think the automation of data scraping and mass newsletter sends out, it works sometimes, but if you're a niche agency, I don't think it would work. You're going to end up, there's going to be too much crap that you'll have to sift through to get where you want to go.
think feeding a little bit off of that as well, like one of the things that we found towards the tail end of last year were a few like add-on partnerships or like products to like our main web development services. So we've gotten into doing a lot of like payment processing or buy now, pay later, where we have residual commissions. So going back to the yo-yo of referrals, like that definitely does exist. But if you have a way of, when you do a project, having something that's sticky that you get residual payout on, it can help level out the peaks and valleys of business closing inconsistently.
Anybody else doing anything? I've got a few things on my list of lead generation topics, but if anything, I saw something in the comment there where it said postcards with QR codes. Is somebody doing that?
Yeah, I threw that one in there. I'm not doing that right now with the e-commerce, but I did do it in financial services. And I'll be honest, as a business owner, I don't get mail. So when I get something in the mail, it's nice and it's fancy. And if you set it up and it has a QR code in it, you're throwing them right into your digital channel right away. I don't know. It's food for thought. Since you guys are talking about going back doing cold calls, why not just send them some mail?
True.
Look at a different strategy that hasn't been talked about yet. There's we're based in Canada. There's quite a bit of free money on the table up here in terms of helping businesses in the incubator space. So they've got a proven concept. They've got revenue. They've got employees. They meet the minimum requirements of having some funding, and normally they've got investor backing and everything. So we actually partner with we have technology partners as well, but we actually partner with like innovation centers. So like an incubator, so not something as large as like Y Combinator, but something on the university level where they're bringing in university talent. And then there's tons of government matching programs where if you'll put in 100K, you'll get 100K matching funding from another organization or a government or another body. And it's really, really easy. You know, the money's there, the product's proven, they've already got sales channels set up. They've got what we consider the minimum viable product for a product that can get to scale. And it's quite easy to manage. And then normally how we work it is those incubators are not running on the same schedule, so they don't compete. So it's kind of like radio almost, where like everyone's running ads at different times. So if you flip, you're back into another set of ads. And then normally you can essentially get 5 or 6 amazing leads through that per cohort. So a cohort of let's just say 10, there's not a lot of competition for a marketing agency to get involved with these things. It's kind of an untapped market. And you can essentially walk in the door. So we give workshops, we give seminars, we give live training, we give one-on-one like office hour sessions to all of these companies going through their programming. Which makes their program better by bringing in an expert. And then normally you've already formed a relationship with all of these businesses. And then on top of that, there's kind of a double dip action where some of these incubators are actually paying us to come in and give the workshop in the first place. So it's kind of like a paid sales channel, which is kind of gravy, but there's tons of them out there that have that availability, and a lot of them are niche focused. So there's a couple of big healthcare, whatever you want to call incubators, accelerators, whatever, they all run by different names, but they are an amazing source of leads for everyone to get involved. And normally you need a somewhat local presence. So like for a Canadian one, most of the incubators here, you need to be a Canadian operating company to get involved with it, because it's the Canadian dollars funding Canadian companies to do whatever. But like I look at the ones in the States all the time, or the ones in Europe, and it's like, oh, if I could get my paws into that, I'd be laughing. But we don't have a US corp kind of thing, but that would be something that you should check out. And those are normally like long-standing, like these aren't like new businesses, new incubators. Like they're like proven, they've got 50 years worth of history, and they've got big dollars behind them. And then with that, you'll end up meeting a bunch of angel investors. You'll meet a bunch of people with money, more money than they know what to do with, and then the cycle kind of keeps going. And they have a new cohort every like 90 to 120 days, where they're doing something really, really specific. They're longer programs of 2 years, but everyone's got money. So it's hard to complain about that.
It's a really smart one. I think the only catch-22 on that potentially is you're working with a lot of startups, which can be super fun. And also I come from the startup world, but it can be really, really, really messy and super scrappy. Well-funded startups are fun, but they don't have a clue what they're doing. So sometimes that can be really chaotic, but it's definitely a good, I know some people that partner with like lending companies and departments or sections within banks that do a lot of that funding for brands and businesses. If they're well funded, it's good, but they burn the money. I know because I ran a startup and we burned through a lot of money super quickly.
They yeah, it's like a lot of it's flash in the pan. Like they burn through a lot of everything, and then they go for another round of funding, and a lot of them are quite successful. It's scrappy, like it's a channel. It's got pros and cons to it, but I mean, especially if you're going to inject like some of your leads into something where it's this is low hanging fruit. Like you can go in and show off your skills fairly easily with low competition. I wouldn't want to have our entire book of business be startups. That would be my phone would never stop ringing, and sometimes you need that, but most of the times you don't. But it's an interesting bit. So if you can stomach a little bit more man hours on getting people at the gate, it's not bad.
The federal government also is giving money for digital, like to help promote e-commerce digitally right now for Canadian companies. So they're literally just throwing out money even to any business basically right now. There's programs in place. So I don't know if anybody has Canadian clients besides Matthew, but definitely we have to connect there, Matthew.
Yeah, I just dropped you my LinkedIn.
Like in Germany, can you hear me?
Yes.
They have like we started to work with a funding agency because like there are a lot of state-funded programs, but there are 30,000 in Germany, and we started to work with an agency, and they look for certain funds or potentials for clients, and if it works well, we can double the deal size, because normally it's 50% for certain certain projects, and it's quite interesting. They get like 10% of the deal from the client, and we get bigger deals. So just started, so we'll see. We started with 3-4 projects, but eventually it could be very interesting.
And with that particular one, Christoph, it means that you were able to create a product around it, which I think is really exciting, because once you have a product, you can create a team, a specific team. So we have, obviously there's some, when it comes to lead generation, there's all the repeat offenders, the usual stuff, such as blog content, partnership initiatives, co-marketing, webinars, LinkedIn, newsletters. I know that this is kind of old school, but sometimes going back to some of the stuff that worked before, newsletters work really, really well for agencies. Just in general, newsletters work well. I did the first part 1 of a 9-month process cohort yesterday. And one of the most underutilized and biggest ROI is newsletters for agencies, that if you actually, once those leads come in, you've already paid for them. If even one person has to touch that lead, you've already paid money for it. It's already cost you something. So it's in your best interest to keep them warm, keep them in your funnel and stay in front of them, even if you're just providing them a piece of content on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis or whatever it is. You need to keep nurturing those leads, because at some stage they may come back to you. I'm saying this as somebody who has a newsletter, and I have people in my network that have been sitting there for 2 years, and it's only now after 2 years that they're actually have some sort of business engagement with me, because they know who I am and they're ready. But one thing I wanted to talk about, I brought Damiano specifically here to talk about, is commission-only salespeople, because I think that's potentially going to be something that's going to be very valuable for a lot of agencies. So I don't know, Damiano, if you wanted to share your journey over the last couple of months.
Yeah, hey guys, how's it going? Howdy. So yeah, I'm Damiano from Canada. I run Startups Line here. team of 40, mostly working on Shopify stores. So yeah, I mean, like lead generation has been something that we've really been trying to automate for quite some time. We were sort of successful working with some freelancing marketplaces, but then we sort of didn't want to move into that direction anymore. So recently what we've been doing is we've actually been putting together a team of setters. And these are people that work on commission only. And they basically work their entire their entire day on like nurturing new relationships with clients and getting them into our pipeline. There's a really great book called Fanatical Prospecting that really helped me like set up a lot of this stuff. And the idea is that you just want to have a system that's constantly reaching out to new merchants and adding people into your pipeline on a regular basis. One of the things that I learned from setting up a team of setters, it's something that I tried a year ago. And I was really sort of like treating these people like employees and that we really had to take care of. And I wasn't getting a really good result from that. And so I went completely the other way and I was like, no, these are independent contractors, they're commission only, so they have to kill what they eat. And we hire fast and we fire even faster. And so the goal of this, what we basically set up is we set up a system where we use these 20 Facebook groups and we go through these Facebook groups that have commission only setters and closers. And we basically put out an offer, right? And we have like a sales page with a video, and on the video, it kind of explains more about startup slang, our deal size, how commission only setters can make $8,000 to $12,000 a month as long as they're hitting the numbers of outreach that we need them to hit. And we break down the math for them and we really show them according to our close rate and our average deal size, why that will make sense. And then from there, we just post it in these Facebook groups and we get people like just applying for interviews. And so this is something that we're doing pretty much every single day. So we're trying to get 4 or 5 interviews every day, and we kind of take the best ones. And once we have them, we standardize the entire training process. So the first time we did this, we realized that the training process sucks because it really takes a really long time to train these people. But we just put it all on a document, and the document really has step 1 to whatever. And there's a lot of like Zoom videos and Loom videos in there, so they can get trained within 48 hours. So the goal is, we get them in for an interview. The ones that we like, we give them access to the training manual. They will then have 48 hours to go through it. Those that don't go through it in 48 hours are out. But those that are, then we do an audit call with everyone who did go through it. And then we answer their questions. And from that moment on, they can start setting calls for us. We open like a Zoom room like this, and we get them all to come into the Zoom room, and they just have to do 100 touch points a day. No matter what happens, like they have to do that. And then we're using just a CRM to keep track of who they're reaching out to and, like what kind of conversations they're having. And so far, so good. Like as long as they hit their numbers and they're doing 100 touch points a day, we're able to hit all sorts of different industries, clients in all sorts of places. Getting the list of clients is also not that difficult. You can use like Built With and really like filter it for industries and tech spend and who's on Shopify Plus and who's not and all of that. And the goal is that, we give them 7 days. If they manage to book a call in 7 days, we keep them. If not, they're out. And that keeps the process sort of fair because, you don't want someone who's like not getting paid to work because they're commission only. And then, they're there for 2-3 weeks and they can't figure out the process and they're not getting paid. So it's not fair for them. So we basically give them 7 days. If you can book calls in 7 days, that means that you're good and we can keep you. And otherwise, we shake hands and they go on their way. With the system, we actually noticed that because it's so trackable and all the numbers are there, we're currently in the process of building like a team of 20. So we're going to have an army of outreach commission only salespeople sort of going out probably by the end of February. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this works. I went on this website called Funalytics. Guys, by the way, I didn't figure all this out, right? Like I went to this website called Funalytics. Funalytics kind of like shows you all the most successful funnels from a bunch of different marketers. And there's literally only one funnel in there from an agency. And I noticed that funnel grew this agency to $30 million in 3 years. And so I'm kind of like just setting up the same thing. So instead of setting up a funnel to reach out to leads, I set up a funnel to reach out to commission only setters. And these commission only setters go out and create relationships and qualify the lead. And so by the time the lead comes to talk to one of our closers, they already know who we are. They're already qualified. We already know how much money they're making. So all of that is already out of the way, and the close rate is a lot higher at that point when we close it for discovery and stuff. So there you go. Fanatical prospecting. Check out the book. It's really good. It's really, really, really cool.
I feel like commission-only salespeople is probably the dream for most businesses. If you could just pay people commission for the work that they actually bring in and stuff they sell, it just sounds amazing. I know
You're just not taking the risk, right? It's like,
yeah,
it's just way better.
Has anybody looked into commission-only salespeople or played with that before?
I've done only commission sales. It's great. Depends on the person though. If the person knows how to like close calls and actually do things, it can be quite lucrative. And especially when you have a prod and a cattle prod system that you've got there to make sure that this person is going to be hungry and want to make the effort. It's powerful.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Has anybody else tried commission-only salespeople?
No, like my salespeople have like a base salary of like 90K, guys, with unlimited, like salary, and like with the possibility to make like up to 200, 250 if they hit their goals. But just the base with like 5 weeks of paid vacation in New York, in the US, basically. Health insurance and all the benefits, 401k and so on and so forth. I'm going to really look into this book and see, how to possibly explore this.
Sounds
this
like
approach.
you just need to hire Canadians, because I've seen that's like salaries go for like $20,000 and $30,000, and then your top up of your commissions will make you enough to live off of. It's wow.
Yeah. But the thing is that when I was looking for last year, especially in the Magento Shopify Plus industry, to find people, because we're talking about enterprise sales here. We're not talking about like selling a toaster, or like Will Smith, like in the Pursuit of Happiness, like selling the machine. This is enterprise sales that takes from 3 to 6 to 12 months, and the deals range from, we don't touch anything less than 100K, for example, on Shopify, and Magento deals will go like $500,000, $750,000. So there, you cannot use any salesperson from nowhere basically to sell it. Like you need to do like strategic and consultative selling that takes long term and is solution based, basically, or problem solving based. So I hope this makes sense.
Yeah, one thing I would say is at Startups Line, with Damiano's agency, we have a sales team there that are salaried and commission and blah, blah, blah. But they're there to close, and having commission only salespeople, I mean, ideally you want to get them into a position where they can close, but those commission only salespeople are effectively like an outbound team of setters. They're there to bring stuff into the funnel, and you then pay, because I think from my experience, I've hired over the last 3 years in my business, I've hired a lot of salespeople for my agencies. I'm doing an interview for a big Shopify Plus agency next week for a head of sales or director of sales. So finding those kind of people, $90,000 is very affordable in a US-based agency, because some of the roles I'm looking at are 120, 150K for those salespeople plus commission. So you have to find a really good person. It's very, very, very difficult, the more experience somebody gets, to have somebody who can do top to tail of the sales process. Usually you have an SDR or a sales executive or a setter or something like that that's bringing the stuff in and qualifying it and dealing with the admin. And you have somebody then who's just a closer, and they're just in there to close business and get stuff over the line. So I agree, it is a very different type of role. Expecting to bring in commission-only salespeople into an agency, especially for deals over a certain size. If you're selling something that's productized or templated, it's fine. Deals like you're talking about, 500, 750K, you need to have patience because it's a fucking long process. And also you really need to know your stuff, because if somebody is going to invest that much money in your business and trust you with that much money, you are going to, as a salesperson, you have to reassure them every single step of the way. And you can't have somebody who's coming in just on a commission basis, who's there just to close stuff. because it's different. So I think it's just, when it comes to lead generation, having commission only salespeople, I think can work really, really well if the product and what it is that they're selling and whatever their hook or foot in the door is, getting those deals over the line, I think that would be very complicated to make that work. Adrian, were you going to add something, or you just
No, just moving around, being shifty.
I feel like you're being shifty. Your beard is like 4 times the size since we spoke on Monday. I don't know how you make it happen.
It's a superpower. It's the only thing I've got. I guess I would. I might have been nodding in agreement that like our product is complex, and the idea that Damiano has presented about lead gen and qualifying leads is really, really good for a simple, repeatable product. I find our product is hard to repeat. It's a one-off and bigger deals. So,
well, not for the audits.
Yeah, I could qualify those. I obviously like. I mean, we use HubSpot and we have all kinds of automations and stuff that we can use. I so much despise all the automated workflows in sales for all the people trying to sell me stuff. And it's when I see a bad workflow, usually that triggers a negative response. And to be honest, the personal stuff is so much better than the robotic. If you want to go get $100,000 or $300,000 from somebody, you might as well do it yourself instead of trying to make robots do it. That's and yeah, the idea of paying somebody commission is really exciting, but the quality of the leads have got to be. I think they're worth paying somebody a wage, $90,000 a year. I mean, our structure, we have a sales manager and he's well paid. He's founder. So yeah, that's all I can say about that. I wish it was automated, just collect checks, at the end of the funnel. It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's the OnlyFans model.
Yeah.
Yeah. Adrian, even though we have like the salesperson, honestly, I'm the founder too. And, like I use a lot of like calls and touch points to close the deal, to add credibility. I involve the whole crew, basically the people that will manage the project, so that the customer knows who they will potentially be working with, and that's how you close those deals. And honestly, I wouldn't trust anyone, like to even represent or misrepresent or underrepresent our company, like that is just based on commission, because they don't know what they are doing. They don't represent our values, and I don't want to waste my time. Basically, I can talk to as few leads as possible, either disqualify them really, really early within 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or keep the ones that are serious and work with them. And where I see alignment, for example, I don't care about the money or, it's just people, because at the end of the day, no matter what brand they represent or we represent, all of us here, our own companies, if you don't get along with someone, if they commoditize you, or if they just like look at you, if you are the cheaper or not, or they will go to the next one, then none of us probably wants to work with such customers or people.
Yeah, there's a relationship. When you're signing on, you want to meet the people at the company. You're signing on to the vision of the founders, and that it's really hard to cut them out of it. It's very much part of the process. In fact, if you strategically in the process, you can have a better close rate, because they do want to meet you, and they want to meet the team. And it's actually cool about for those discoveries, like we've been doing now, thanks to the work done last year. We're actually kind of, we have a funding mechanism for all those calls, where you get to go meet somebody and decide whether you want to work with them. And I'm sure that everybody's got their limits on who they want to work with, but you can tell, like dating, pretty quickly whether it's going to close or whether you actually want to close.
Yeah, agree with that. I agree 100%. And I think, like you said, Adrian, if you can productize the smaller parts of the offer, so in this case, a discovery piece or an audit piece, that's definitely something that you could offload to somebody on a commission basis or whatever, that they could rattle those out. as soon as they get into the funnel, then at that stage, then you're able to determine, is this somebody that I want to work with or not? Is it worth getting into bed with this business or not? Then you have that luxury. But from a lead generation point of view, at the end of the day, if your pipeline is full, you're in a position of luxury where you can pick and choose the ones that you want to work with.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times in business, I think we've all been through it, that you just have to eat the shit. I had a call with an agency today and she had an amazing year. December and January have been awful. And she said she had a call today or yesterday with a brand, a referral from another big brand. The brand or the referral ticks every single box, but she got on a call with that person and it was cold. And she said, I just didn't feel it. I didn't feel the rapport between the two of us, and I don't want to work with her because I didn't feel it, even though every single box is ticked from it's the ideal client for us. They're earning good money, blah, blah, blah. But she just didn't feel it. And she said, well, business is quiet right now. Do I take on this business knowing that the rapport just wasn't there for me? And it's just making that decision. Now, if she had a full pipeline and didn't need the business, it would have been an easy no.
You know, if you look at what we're doing now too, where we're not meeting people in person and you know, perhaps a Zoom call is going to be cold or hard to you know, have that magic. I mean, we definitely would have, you know, if somebody wanted to do a big deal with us, I would go to their office and go present in person and go take them out to lunch. That's not an option now. So it's really hard to warm people up. Yeah, you guys send gifts and try to be funny on a Zoom call, I guess.
It's difficult. Look, at the end of the day, one thing I will say about lead generation for sure, there's lots of different ways. Lindsay, I know that we spoke loads of times about partnership sales for your type of agency because you have a very specific product. And because your product is so specific, doing creative content, you have the ability to then partner with lots of other different agencies where there's no competition, and you can then pick and choose strategic partners where a design and build agency who's working with the kind of brands that you're working with, and you guys can cross-pollinate. You don't want to have just one strategy, but one thing I would say, like I said in the workshop yesterday, for any of the people, I don't know who was here from the workshop yesterday, lead generation comes down to one thing and one thing only, and that's consistency. There's not one solution. It's not content or newsletters or partnerships or LinkedIn posts or webinars. It's consistently trying a bit of everything, measuring your results to see what works, and then figuring out which stuff resonates best. And it's consistent, keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. Any of the agencies that I know that use like B2B lead generation tools or companies or teams, it's almost always 6 to 9 months before they start getting consistent results. So it takes time to, just like SEO takes a while before that really kicks in. So lead generation really requires having a finger in every single pie and moving them all forward and seeing which one works best and then ramping one up or as and when you need it. Is there any questions that anybody has specifically about lead generation? Anything that's part of their strategy this year that they wanted to get advice from the rest of the agencies here in the last 5 minutes?
I have. What is the most like productive channel for lead generation that you guys use? For us, the content, our site organically has been very strong over the years. The platforms, you know, like being a partner of Magento or Shopify or Ecommerce, the reps from these platforms will bring us leads in, and a huge one is partners. But partners, for example, we're an e-com agency, we do technical SEO, but we partner with like really big SEO agencies, for example, and they send us leads and we send them leads as well. So that has been the most productive for us. And with one interesting fact, though, that we never request for commission when we send them work or leads as an agency, because then that influences who we send the lead to, but we always pay commission if you send us a lead. So there was a deal last year that the company from Chicago sent us the 500K, they wanted 10%, we cut them a check, $50,000, boom, right there. When the contract was signed, basically, the customer hadn't even paid us in full, but those were their terms. But that's kind of how we approach it. You know, like, I don't know what you guys do.
Anyone? Nobody else is doing lead gen?
I'm happy to say that we go to events, you know, like we do trade shows and stuff because that's where our target clients are at. So that helps. And of course, blogging is great, but like really meeting people, and you wouldn't believe it, digital agency with printed copies of your case study or your services deck or whatever that you can hand somebody, that actually is pretty helpful. So
I will joke and say, sorry.
Go ahead.
I combine both of those. So I go with partners to trade shows and we do events together. So with us having multiple partners, it lets us have multiple events during a trade show week. So if somebody is really interested, we can get them engaged in the first meeting and then end up inviting them to subsequent events. And that's helped us quite a bit.
Sounds good. So I would like to share my experience as well. So my agency is Shopify Pro. I actually run 3 agencies, Shopify Pro, HTML Pro, and Software Pro, based in New York. So we get about 375 leads a month. And those leads are a clutter of, I would say, 50% from the platforms like Upwork, 40% from automated lead generation from LinkedIn. So we set up LinkedIn, we use Seamless to get the contact information, and then we use Salesforce integrated with Seamless and create a funnel of lead generation. And from there, we get about 100 to 150 leads a month, targeted to the industries and targeted to different technologies and niches across the United States in different cities. And then we try to be on top in SEO as well. So for majority of because we work with almost 15 plus e-commerce platforms, so we try to be number one as an e-commerce agency for different platforms like OpenCart or BigCommerce, Magento, Shopify, of course. And apart from that, we do the trade show. So just like Rachel mentioned, that we keep a chunk of different sources, and we combine about like 375 leads a month. And then once we acquire those leads from automated channels, then we hand it over to the humans. And the humans' job is actually to convert them into actual sales. I should say from cold lead to a warm lead, and from warm lead to actual sale. And from there, I keep my sales guys a fixed cost and plus commission on every stage. And even once the sale is closed, I keep a chunk of money for the account managers. I keep the different layers for them, and that actually always keep them engaged, and also for upselling and cross-selling as well. For the conversion ratio, that's about 10 to 15%. They have to close. So if you're getting 375, so we close about 35 to 40 sales a month.
Nice. I will just do a quick screen share. I did this presentation yesterday, or this is the cohort I run. I'll just share this one slide. Hopefully you can see it. Do I need to do a screen share? Whatever it is. Can everybody see that? Did I share the right screen? I'll take it as a yes. Okay. So for me, when it comes to lead channels, just to answer the question, I put it into 4. This is probably the wrong way around. It probably should start with marketing and then go to partnerships and then go to inbound and then outbound. But when I talk about lead generation with my agencies, typically this is the way I refer to it. So you have marketing, which is like, I grew up on a farm, so I use a lot of farming analogies. So marketing is like planting or sowing your seeds. One of the cult leaders in our private mastermind, Darren Lynch, uses this expression quite a lot. marketing creates awareness and sales converts it. And I think that that's entirely accurate for an e-commerce agency. Marketing activities can be lots of different things, but really your sales is there to convert the marketing that's brought the leads in. Obviously with marketing, then all of that stuff gets pushed into inbound. And inbound for me is like farming. You're farming through the leads that you have to figure out which ones you want to work with. Then of course you have outbound, and outbound is straight up hunting. You're going on the hunt and you're going out and you're looking for the work. And then partnerships is like harvesting. So partnerships are the ones where you have a list of, maybe it's technology partners, maybe it's strategic partners, maybe it's other agencies that offer complementary services to you. Maybe it's a platform partner. Maybe you're a development agency and you partner with a creative agency or a branding agency or design agency or SEO agency, and you're sharing those leads. I have a few agencies in my private group of agencies I work with, and one of them is an email agency and one is design and build, and they work with a handful of brands together. So these for me are the 4 key areas that you need to be focusing on. You can have, if you have one of them going, that eventually it's going to drop off. You could have 2 of them going, but the chances are it's probably going to drop off. You need to have at least 3 going at any given time to have consistent lead generation. And without this, none of these will work very effectively. And I know from my experience, having run an agency and working with so many agencies, marketing is one of the biggest pain points and Achilles heels that most agencies have. But they can build beautiful websites, they can market businesses for their brands, but they absolutely cannot do it for themselves. I don't know why. It's like a blind spot that you've got, not in all cases, but sometimes you've got shit websites, you've got shit marketing strategies because you spend so much time doing it for your clients. So if you want lead generation to, or if you need lead generation to be one of the reasons for your growth and success this year, look at your marketing strategy, look at who your partners are. SEO is definitely something for some of my agencies that most of their inbound leads come, because I know one guy who did a very specific SEO strategy in Canada for specific keywords. And within 6 months, he was the #1 ranking agency in those areas that he wanted to penetrate, and all of the leads. He actually started an Upwork and then came off Upwork very quickly. And then all the business was coming through, and his business went from doing an average 5 to 10K builds to doing 50 to 100K builds within a year, just because of an SEO strategy. So there's not a silver bullet. There's not one size fits all. You're going to have to try a few different areas. Of course, the biggest win are going to come from the agencies that are more niche. There's no question. If you're an agency that specializes in sustainable brands in the food and drink industry, it's going to be so much easier for you to build a list of partners and penetrate that industry with a variety of different marketing initiatives. There's no question. But if you're not in that situation, then you can go a little bit broader, but you have to try a little bit of everything for a long period of time and then measure the success. I am not a lead generation expert, but I do know how to drive leads, and I've helped a lot of my agencies do it pretty well. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. I'm really excited to see, I think Damian had to jump onto a sales call, but I'm really excited to see how that commission-only setters get on for him. So I'll be keeping you posted. The next time we'll be circling back for this roundtable is going to be in April. And I'm not sure exactly what the topics are going to be. I need to work on them. I was supposed to work on them before, but then I nearly fell apart before Christmas because I was so burnt out. And then I came back after Christmas and got COVID. So I'm just trying to stay afloat. So anyway, if anybody needs anything from me in the meantime, some of you I know are already in my process cohort, so I'll be seeing you every couple of weeks anyway. And otherwise, the rest of you, I'll catch up with you in a few months. Cool. Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining.